Hello and welcome to another video. Another video about this time the eclipse, an eclipse happening on around and about the 19th of November of this year. And although it is a partial one, which means it's not that big of a deal, it's a small one, I think it's a very interesting one because around that same day, so around at about the 19th, actually the 18th, there is also Venus going into its shadow, and that is significant, those two things together. So I want to make a separate video here just about the eclipse first, a bit in general, and then I'm going throughout all the signs to have a look at what area of your life you're going to feel this the most. Now, first of all, the eclipse. So the eclipse will be around about the 19th in the sign of Taurus, 27 degrees of Taurus, and the moon will be there and opposing the sun because it's going to be a full moon and opposing the sun at 27 degrees of Scorpio, together with the south node, and the moon will be together with the north node. So that means the moon together with the north node, although the north node is actually not yet in Taurus, it's actually, as it goes backwards, it's at the very beginning of Gemini, like 0 or 1 degree of Gemini. So it's not there yet in Taurus, but as the difference, the gap between 27 degrees of Taurus and 1 degree of Gemini, that's only a couple of degrees. So that's why it's seen as an eclipse in Taurus and seen as an eclipse. So that was for a lot of people not really. That's why I'm trying to explain this for those of you who are interested in astrology. But most of you are interested in what is the meaning of it and what is the interpretation. Well, every year we have a full moon in Taurus, and every year it's around this time in November time. But not every year it's an eclipse. An eclipse is an amplifier, and definitely a moon a lunar eclipse, a lunar eclipse that is connected to the north node, because it's the north node with the moon. So there lies the newness, you could say. So we're going to have a sneak preview of when the nodes will shift next year, in the beginning of it, in January. We are now already seeing a sneak preview of what this is going to be, and especially intertwined with the Venus retrograde, because that's something very significant happening next year as well with the Venus retrograde. And as Venus is the ruler of Taurus, it is really, Venus is ruled by Taurus. So what Venus is doing has to do in a way with this new development that we're all after. And the shift of the eclipses, that so the focus is going to be on Taurus for the a long time, quite a long time, certainly the whole of 2022, and that is a collective message that all of us, we for some reason we need to go more towards our own values rather than where the south node is in Scorpio, depending on other people's values, whether it is depending on their resources, money for instance, whether it is depending on their emotional resources, so to feel emotionally secure, because let's say I'm feeling emotionally not so good and I'm feeling not good about myself, and I'm going to look for it outside. And that can be refreshing for a couple of hours or days. But in the long run, it's actually working against you. That is the North Node also in Taurus. It's about look for your own resources and own it and go after your own self-worth. Self-worth, you can't get that from other people. Otherwise, it's not self-worth. So we are all going through these phases where we are going to learn more, or the universe is going to show us lessons in particular areas in our life where we need to develop that more. We need to get a little bit more away from what other people think, because that's the negative side of Scorpio, is control. So you can manipulate, of course, people, other people, that they are a certain way because it fits you. It fits your perspective, your little one person perspective, frame, compass, call it whatever you want to call it. But the universe, you could say, because astrology is the language of the universe, the language of God, if you like, or but that is a bit more a loaded word, but it's the language of nature. And nature is saying, look, on planet Earth, they need to develop a little bit more self-worth. Like when the nodes were in Gemini, the emphasis was more on information, communication, and that was a whole other story. But now it is more, has to do with our resources, it has to do with our how we feel, our talents, how we nurture ourselves. That is so important. And a lot of people, especially people who have that empathic energy in them and their temperament, and that is a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. But the pitfall for these people is that they tend to focus a little bit too much on other people and figuring out, hey, how are they feeling and how can I please them and whatnot. It's Venus after all, Venus ruled, that you forget the self. So it's a lot about helping yourself first in order to help others, and you can empower others, but empowering yourself first, right? It's a lot about, I was just recently in an airplane, and it really is about that classical example of when there's going to happen an accident on the airplane and the oxygen things drop down. You have to help yourself first and then your children, which is a bit crazy, right? Because no, I help my children first. But it's that energy with the eclipse. Okay, the eclipse belongs to the Saros cycle 5 south, and it's a very positive eclipse family for a change, because the last eclipses, they were quite heavy, quite dramatic, but this one is a fun one. It's a happy one, it's an enjoyable one. And Taurus is, if you think about it, the positivity about Taurians is all about how they are in the moment, and and there's a huge strength in that, and it's grounding, it's with the feet on planet Earth, so to speak. But these are the people that love everything that has to do with the 5 senses, good foods, good drinks, good sensuality as well, a massage, whatever has to do with feeling comfortable and feeling stable and feeling nurtured from within. So this is the aim of this eclipse as well. And meanwhile, there are, of course, other things going on. As I was saying, Venus is entering its shadow. And that means that Venus is almost ready to go retrograde. That doesn't happen that much, maybe once every 2 years. And Venus normally stays in a sign, so it's in Capricorn then, and which trines Taurus, so that those two, they help each other, so to speak. I mean the eclipse and the Venus, what Venus is doing. And these two, so Venus in Capricorn, normally that stays there like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but now it's gonna stay there for a long time. It's going retrograde on the 19th of December, then it goes forwards again on the 30th of January. So we're already, it stays there, I think, certainly at the end of February. So it takes a long Venus retrograde time. That means for a lot of people, because the clue of the Venus retrograde is transformation, at the end of February, it's going to come together with Venus, Mars, and Pluto. So there is also this element of transformation going on. If you fit it in with the eclipse that we're going to feel, it's like an initiation, a sneak preview of not only those 5 senses, the comfort and the value and the self-worth, but also about a transformation that has to deal with, and now I'm going through the signs in particular to see what area of life that we're going to feel it. Meanwhile, around the 19th of November, if you're watching this video before the 19th of November, you already feel it, because eclipses, they tend to be not bang on that day that you're feeling it. It's before, a couple of weeks even, or some astrologers say months, and also after the event, after the eclipse. But bottom line is that during that day of the 19th, there is like the aftermath of a very, you could say, exciting energy. Mars opposite Uranus just went on before the eclipse, and then Venus trining Uranus. So in a nutshell, this is very Uranian energy, which is indeed a bit unpredictable, but in a positive way, because Venus trines Uranus. In a positive way, it is excitement. It is doing new stuff, new values emerging. That's a bit how I see it. And so yeah, let's delve into the 12 signs. So for Aries, this is happening, this eclipse. So the moon will be in the second, and I'm going to say it in pairs here. Or that's going to be difficult. No, I'm not going to do it in pairs. Let's do it sign by sign. Aries at 2 in the second house. You're going to have this eclipse. So this moon is going to be in your second house. And the 8th house, there is the sun. And Venus will be in your 10th house. So you could say the transformation is happening at the level of work, career, or how you want to be seen in the world. If you say, Veerle, I'm retiring, then it has to do with how you want to be seen in the world. There is a transformation that needs to happen. You know, the Venus retrograde is going to do that, whether we like it or not. But you're getting help, so to speak, from that eclipse, the moon in your second house. So actually, Aries people are going to feel more confident than ever. Yes, it's good. So the pitfall will be ego struggles around values, right? That's mine, that's yours. If they go beyond that, if they're saying yes, that's their value, but that's their perspective and their frame and their how do you call it, their compass, and I respect it. Wow, this can really, really help you, this self-worth, this confidence that you're creating from within to make those changes that relates to work, whatever it is for you. Some people, the way that they do work is wrong, is not good for them. And it's triggered by also that value system of yours. So listen to your value system. Listen to your core values. What is important for you? Is a home life more important for you now? Maybe your partner doesn't like that, you know, the other way around. But it's about that balance, and it's about respect as well, of how you're going to transform your life in a process. So that's for Aries people. The focus could be on work, but you know, relationships are considered there as well, because the second house and the 8th house, it's the value also of other people. So Aries people, and that may sound weird because Aries people are known that they do their own thing. I'm looking like this because I have my moon in Aries, and people say that to me sometimes, but sometimes it's needed, right? And because the south node is going to be in the 8th house. So detach yourself a little bit from what other people think and from other people's resources. It's about you, basically. Taurus, what is this all about? Well, this is about you. Again, this is an eclipse happening in your sign. So if you have any planets between 27 degrees, you're going to feel it. But all Taurians, of course, will feel this. And the help, the transformation comes from your 9th house. So it is your perspective. It is your compass is changing. And that is something so unbelievable. And I'm so excited for the Taurians, because a Taurian is so stubborn. I'm sorry to say this, but it is your strength, but it's also your weakness. And the more you are open for a new perspective, a new compass, and a new frame, which is a big deal, because that means discomfort. And remember what I said about Taurians, they want their comfort, but they kind of choose a situation that is even toxic for them sometimes, because they are so comfy human beings, right? So now you are challenged to, and it's on a mental level first, you know, you have time for this. On a mental level to broaden your perspective, and you're gonna see it, you know, the trigger is you. It's basically you that are about to change. Of course, it can backfire against an important relationship. Of course, that's normal. That's normal. But that is triggering you and showing you how strong you are, and how, not like, again, an ego struggle, but in a way of, if you are who you are, who deals with that in a good way or not, you know? And it's about, because Taurians, they can be very much people pleasers too, because they're ruled by Venus, and because of the relationship, and they want to everything to be very peaceful, a bit like the Librans, but in a different way. And but now they are realizing that they're not authentic because of that. Because remember, Venus is going to conjoin with Pluto. This is about authenticity. And yes, it's going to hurt you that when you show your own authentic self, the people who are the closest to you might not like this, right? But that's not their fault, as much as it's not your fault. It's a consequence of how you are or have been. But you have an opportunity of changing that. So for you, it's the mindset, and therefore your significant relationship change for that. So have the courage to do so, and to do you. Gemini, this is all happening more at the background, because this eclipse is happening in the 12th house, which is a very, you could say, an unconscious house. And the ruler of it, you could say the trigger or the connection, is your 8th house, where Venus is. So the 8th house is the resources of other people. It's money, it's inheritances, it's taxes, it's emotional security of other people that are giving that to you. And there is a transformation that you're going through, and some sort of a new state of mind, you could say, that an old pattern, it's old patterns of yours, you know. The 12th house is our luggage from former lives, even our patterns that we have outgrown now. Because the moon, I mean, an eclipse there, it's like a big light spot, or a spotlight, a spotlight on that 12th house, on your blind spot. And it's been, you know, you can do two things. You can put your head in the sand, but of course you're not going to do. Or you can say, yeah, that this was an old pattern, I'm done with it, or I'm able to process this and to go through it, so that I get the validation of others, that I'm gonna get what I, you know, what others can give me, and I'm worth it. But it's about, first and foremost, letting go of an old pattern, whatever that pattern is, a pattern that is not suiting you, a pattern that is a survival mechanism from former lives, right? You can, for instance, get very mad because you're not getting what you want, and you're focusing and forcing, and maybe that is a pattern that has served you throughout the years, but now you're realizing, because it comes to the surface, the moon is lightening it up, and you realize that, and that changes your life. So very interesting for the Geminis. Cancer, Cancerians, this is relationship stuff, social stuff going on for you. So the eclipse is happening in a very nice area of your chart. It's happening in the 11th house, and I think the eclipse for you is quite enjoyable, quite nice, and quite fun if you use it the right way. That moon is in your 11th house of friends, and the goals the goals and the vision you have for the future. So it's the future house, right? We all have goals and visions. Some of us have lots of them and others not. So there is going to be an illumination, something that is really, really clear for you. Maybe a new objective for the future, a new plan for the future, a new vision, or a friend is going through the same thing, is going through some illumination or whatever. And it has also to do with your heart, you know, what your heart desires, because it opposes the sun in the 5th house. So it's a lot about where I want to go, who do I want to be, you know, the Cancerian that you are, who do I want to be for the rest of the future? And that could be like, I want to be, I don't know, maybe you are very young and you have just graduated or whatnot, and you say, I want to be successful in a way that I can provide for my family, for instance. Or you're going to say, I want to be a teacher in my life so I can, share my knowledge, whatever it is. Or you're saying, no, it's something that is completely new, because Uranus is going to be involved next year with the eclipses as well. So it's a new kind of objective. It's not an objective that you've been having for years and years. No, it's a new one. And it can be activated by like-minded people, by freshness of that. I've been talking about that for quite a while, because this is the energy in your 11th house. And it has a transformational effect on your significant relationship, because Venus retrograde is happening in Capricorn, which is your opposite sign, which is the person that you are with, or that if you're married, or if you're in a relationship, and also business partners. So if you're in a business partnership, so these are the significant people. If you are single, this could be really that, because you have those new objectives, because you have those new plans of the future, a new person comes in. You attract a new person that is very much aligned with you. So, but for those of you who have a very, and I mean a very, very bad relationship, so I really mean someone that is dragging you down, someone that you've been doing way too much in your life, like someone that is, that is toxic. This can be a moment, not this, but this can be the beginning of the beginning of the end, if you want that to. If you're saying, yes, this person, this man is, or this woman is dragging me down, they're not good for me, I can't be myself. Remember, the authentic self is so important. I can't be myself. It's only when I'm pleasing. Cancerians, they can manipulate in that way. They are very good manipulators. I mean, they can use this to get what they want, but it's, again, not real. It's not authentic. And so that could change as well for the Cancerians, but that's more for like the end of February. Then you're really going to see that transformation happening. So big stuff coming up for you on a relationship level. And definitely, if you've been saying, oh, I've been single for so many years and I want something to happen, well, yeah, there could be coming in a very strong person in your life. And for Cancerians who have a relatively good relationship, who are saying, yeah, it's you could say a balanced relationship, there is something that is nagging you, that comes to the surface and that needs to be dealt with. Nothing more. It's not so dramatic, but it can demand a lot of courage of you. For Leos, this is happening in the eclipse in the 10th house. Very important eclipse there for the Leos. In the 10th house, it is full of your role in the world, so to speak. So the eclipse is lifting up and showing, it could be that you are very much in the spotlight. It could be that you're going to be very much in the spotlight. People are going to see you, and that's good. And there's also a message there of your path in life, your career path, your true intentions with your path. And it's also about who you want to be seen for, right? If you're saying, Veerle, I'm 18 years old, I'm just studying, I'm not having a career. How do you want to be seen? Because the 10th house is a second ascendant, in my opinion. So there are going to be a lot of changes there, certainly also the next year. And this is a sneak preview of, this is my needs, this is my true authentic self, how I want to be seen, and who I am actually. And what is going to help you is that Venus retrograde in the 6th house, which is your day-to-day life, your health, your day-to-day life, your day-to-day work as well. So there is a transformation there that is coming up for you. Maybe you're gonna do something totally different when it comes to work. And when I mean something different, I mean maybe not the same company, but a totally, from the salesman to the nurse, or from the nurse to the salesman, whatever. That big shift, not for all of you, but for many of you. So this is truly highlighting work rather than relationships. I mean, the eclipse in itself, and but yeah, many improvements that you can take. Virgos, I love this for you, Virgos. My fellow Virgos, because this is happening in your ninth house in a fellow Earth sign, and Venus retrograde is happening in another fellow Earth sign of Capricorn. My goodness me, you're gonna feel it, the Virgos, and especially the Virgos. Yay! I mean, it doesn't always have to be dramatic and bad news, right? And challenges and whatnot. Sometimes it's what we call a grand Earth trine, and for the Virgos, that means fluently. I mean, we Virgos, fluently. What is that? What is that word, right? When things happen spontaneous to us, and that things seem to flow for us, we are going to be in that energy. And it's the 5th house and the 9th house. So the 5th house is your self-expression. And that is the transformation that is going on through children, through creative projects, through romance. So for some of you, there's a little bit of a romance there coming up for you, or possible, or opportunities. And because the 9th house is triggered here, it could be someone with, not necessarily from abroad, but with who is like 9th house kind of personality, which shows like them through travel, through study, through maybe doing things in a cultural, you're going to visit a museum, for instance, and you learn to meet someone there. All of these things, everything that broadens your perspective, which is what's going to happen for the Virgos. There's a broadening up of their perspective for sure. And because of that, it has a knock-on effect on their heart. So it's an opening up of the heart. I know Virgos, they are told that they are cool. And in a way they are cool. But it's because they are a bit shy. And that shyness, there is a possibility to break that open and to show more your authentic self, because you're going to speak your mind very authentically. And that is good. I mean, that is really, really interesting. So for Virgos, it's on a mental level, the eclipse, but the transformation is more on a heart level, and they are helping each other out. So head and heart, it's on the same page. Whew, that's positive news, isn't it? I'm not gonna elaborate on that. It's what it is, isn't it, dear Virgos? Next, Libra. This eclipse is happening in the more emotional houses. So for the Librans, this is a bit more on an emotional level. This eclipse is happening in your 8th house. And the Venus retrograde, which is your ruler, which is going to be super, super, super important, is in your 4th house, your core, your emotional stability, your emotional nurturing. So maybe because of I say maybe because there are tons of possibilities, but a possibility could be, it's an example. It's not that this is going to happen to you, but it's an example. The moon in the 8th house can mean that it comes to the light, a value of someone else, a value of someone that is very close to you. It comes to the light, and they're really talking or doing an action that you see that these people value you or don't value you. It's going to be quite clear for you and quite authentic, and that has a knock-on effect on your emotional stability, because ultimately it's about self-love, right? If you're getting it from someone, it's nice. It's nice if people appreciate you. Of course it's nice. I'm not saying that it's negative, on the contrary. But if you're doing something to get validation, it's always in the long term, that is, not in the short term. but in the long term, it doesn't work. So there's a lot of that energy happening for the Librans. The Librans, they are going to work on their emotional stability amazingly. And that is not by getting it by other people. So if around that time you're getting a beautiful validation from someone that you truly love, fantastic. But don't get addicted to it. If you're not getting that validation that you wanted, be grateful and say, hey, this is because I need to work on validating myself, basically. Scorpio is a super important time for you because, of course, with this eclipse, the sun is going to be in your sign. But it's with the south node. So a part of you needs to die. And Scorpios, you know all about dying, don't you? I mean, Scorpios, if there is a sign that knows very well that sometimes things need to go, and even when it's out of the comfort zone, they need to do it. It can take for a Scorpio double time, but when they're doing it, there's no turning back. And that's the strength of the Scorpio. Once they go through it, they are transformed. And something significant can be triggered by another significant person, because the eclipse is happening in your 7th house, where the moon is. So there could be your loved one that is going to show you something, for better or for worse. They're going to show you something that can be very emotional, but it's something new. It's something that is actually triggering you to growth. Remember the moon with the North Node, as I said in the beginning of the video. So, and even if you are single, there could be someone new coming in your life. Absolutely. And especially also with the Venus will be in your 3rd house. So it could be someone from your environment, or where you, a student, or someone that you study with, or something, someone that you're learning something with, or that you communicate through the internet. You know, the 3rd house is a very social house. So, and there is where the transformation lies. So your transformation is how you think about love. You know, Venus in the 3rd house, it's going to transform. It's not going to be the same anymore. So that's your cup of tea, Scorpio. Absolutely. But it's through triggering of another person, which is, it's understandable, isn't it? So things are, and it also has to do with the authenticity of other people. And it also has to do with your compass, right? Because the downside of Scorpio is that they can push other people into a certain way, because, and this is now the pitfall of the Scorpio. I'm not saying all Scorpios are like that. Only the Scorpios that are very unconscious, these are the people who are saying, I'm not controlling anyone. Of course, we are always doing that to a lesser or to an extent, whether we like it or not, because it's everyone has this desire to be seen and to be known, and there's only a very small percentage of people that is okay with other people being who they are. I mean, a Scorpio that is really not alert and really not knowing themselves, and is saying like, oh yes, they can be however they want to be. It's your own shadow. It's knowing that shadow of, how can I let other people shine? And even though it's not fitting in my compass, in my frame, in my standards, that's gonna be the deal. And once you can do that, there is like this beautiful transformation of self, but also of love. You can attract someone into your life. When you're single, for instance, you can attract someone into your life that is so matching up with you, that is so merging with you, that is so you as well. And that's ultimately what Scorpios like. They like to merge with people who are who are on that same level, basically, who are as intense as they are, right? Because otherwise Scorpios feel themselves misunderstood. Okay, Very interesting. Sagittarians are for those who have a Sagittarian rising. And this is happening in your sixth house of your day-to-day work, your health. So there could be something that pops up, something that illuminates, because some old patterns that you're not doing anymore, the South Node and the Sun in the 12th house, a breakthrough, you could say, from an old pattern that's been helping you to survive, basically. But now you don't have to survive anymore, you can thrive. But that means stopping that old pattern. So you could be something that illuminates, that has to do with your health, or mental health, physical health, that maybe what you're eating too much sugar, or smoking, or drinking too much, or whatever. And that's something that comes to light that is really clear for you, and that goes well for you. And that you that illuminate, because it's an illumination. It's an illumination, dear Sagittarians. And that means that you know your part, and that's very important for a Sagittarian, to know your part, to know your vision. And it's going to be so clear for you. Also work, if work is dragging you down, if things that you can't be real, it's going to illuminate itself. And therefore, this is going to have an effect on your worth, your self-worth, your money. I mean, Venus there with Pluto and Mars. Wow, this is good. This is good for more money, tons of money. If you now I'm you. I'm seeing my own pitfall now. I'm a Sagittarius rising myself. I have to watch out when I do this, because people say, you said a ton of money. And, maybe 100 euros is maybe a ton of money for me, and maybe not for you. Whatever it is, take that with a piece of salt, will you? But it can mean, indeed, Pluto is very deep, transformational. So it can mean, for some of you, it will be a lot of money. You can be sure of it. And but whatever it is, the focus is on that your day-to-day life and your health, and the validation of that, of I want to be in the now, and I want to have fun day by day. And when my work is 8 hours a day, feeling miserable, you are ready to make shifts there, and to take that responsibility, to take that courage, absolutely. And that's going to have such a knock-on effect on your values. Incredible. So your values are going to be triggered for sure. And and also it's vice versa. And also your daily life could change because of that, because you're going to be more authentic. So also in relationships, maybe you are relating to someone and you can't show your authentic self, and then this pops up, and you go through this transformation. It's very transformational, having Venus in the second house with Pluto. That's very transformational on a self-worth level, because remember, the eclipse is about self-worth. So as well for you, because you're saying yes to you could have some changes in the workplace. You could even have some changes in relationships as well, because that's what values are all about. So yes, some people are not going to like it, but know that this is necessary. Otherwise, there won't be change. Capricorns, this is, of course, the Venus retrograde is happening in your sign. And but the eclipse is happening in a fellow earth sign of Taurus in your 5th house. This is lovely. For the 5th house is the house of children, romance, your creative projects. So something comes to light there. There could be a new relationship. There could be a new love coming into your life that is very, it's going to be very transformational, because it's linked with that Venus and Pluto in your sign. Or things come to the surface because of a friend, for instance. The sun is in the 11th house of friends, so a friend could trigger you or help you in a way. You could feel that in a positive way or a negative way. But to look at yourself, to look at your heart and what your heart is desiring. And because of that, it can be a bit of shakeups in the relationships, because ultimately when Venus is in your sign with Pluto there, it is sure that you're going to be authentic as unbelievable. If you already have been a fairly authentic person, okay, that's manageable. But if not, and yeah, you can expect more towards, not deliberately now on the 19th of November, but more towards January and February, big changes in your relationships. So but only if you want that to, right? You have free will to go on that wave or not. So it's up to you. It's very simple. You can transform your relationships if you want to. That, you know, from a bad one to a good one, from a good one to a not so good one, or you could say from a good, let's say from a good one to even improving on a higher level. Let's not be negative here, right? It's not to say to make it worse, but when you are in a good relationship, it could mean that something is really triggering you. It's a bit the same like the Cancerians. So because those are